Hi guys, thank you very much for watching this video and also joining me live on the twitch.tv/Film Scotland. Of course, we've had a few technical issues tonight, but we are back, we are proper, we are recording, we are streaming. So guys, thank you very much for all the support. Really do appreciate you guys staying with us. I noticed a few of the guys just chatting away there on the chat as well. Did you manage to finish the Cupheads? That's just a general chat. So, guys, with me tonight is, of course, a well and truly established voice actress as well, and also a politician, a former politician as well. Of course, you guys will probably know her as the voice of Rogue from X-Men, and that's from the 90s X-Men. But we'll be chatting about the return of X-Men. So, joining me tonight is Lenore Zann. Yeah. It's the Russians. It's the Russians, guys. It's the Russians. Right, okay. There we go. Okay. So everything should now be coming up now.
Okay, let's try it again. Hello, hello,
Yay!
hello.
Fantastic. So again, guys, I'm a one-man band. Apologies for this. We're going yes, by the way. So again, guys, thank you so much for thanks for letting us know about the audio. Lenore, you were just mentioning about the t-shirt there as well.
I was gonna say yes. This is my t-shirt, which is in honor of you in Scotland, because I gotta see which way am I, because this is the symbol also for Nova Scotia, New Scotland, which is where I am living right now.
Yeah, so actually, one of the guys on the stream, Angry Scotsman Gaming, should I say, was just mentioned to me actually when we were testing out the stream a few days ago, where he was just mentioning that the Nova Scotia flag looks absolutely amazing.
Yes. Exactly, and it makes me very proud of my Scottish heritage as well. Although I wasn't born in Nova Scotia, we moved here from Australia, But in Australia, my ancestry is all Irish, English, Scottish, Welsh, and Croatian on my dad's side. That's where the name Zann comes from, short for Zaninovic, many generations ago.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
You're on about the UK side of things, and we'll actually come on to that actually in just a wee while.
Sure.
But obviously, actually, Angry Scotsman Gaming has just mentioned that he's quite jealous of the Nova Scotia flag. In fact, he's rather angry, so to speak, right now.
Well, tell him if I come over to Europe for a Comic-Con, I really would like to come to the Wales, the Telford takeover. I'm hoping that we get invited and we can come to that in April, I believe it is. But if so, I'll bring my Nova Scotia flag or a few of them and give him one if he wants to come.
Well, actually, since you're on about the Comic-Cons, one of the questions that we had, in fact, was that obviously you were saying you're hoping to be in the UK in future, and obviously Wales is one of the places you wanted to go and see. But what about Scotland? Would you come to Scotland at any point?
Absolutely. If we get invited to the Telford Comic-Con in April, I would really like to take that month, the month of April, and travel around the UK to visit Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and England to check out my roots, my Celtic roots and my Scots roots. And we came from Glasgow in Scotland. My great grandfather was a coal miner from Glasgow, and they moved to New South Wales in Australia. And he helped to start the very first union federation for miners in Australia in New South Wales. So I'm pretty proud of that heritage.
That's pretty awesome. Like, it seems to be that you're quite really into the sort of history and whatnot of heritage.
Yes, I love heritage, and also I'm really proud of the various labor roots that I have. We were really always fighting for social justice issues on both sides of the family. Although, of course, two of my great grandfathers on both sides were sent to Botany Bay in Australia as convicts on the early convict ships. So maybe, I don't know, they were both dinged for highway robbery. Who knew? And they were both 19 at the time in different cities, and they both got sent off to Australia, didn't know each other, but years later their descendants met and married, and here I am playing rogue.
That's pretty amazing, actually. You were talking about Comic-Cons as well, and yeah. I know you've been to quite a few with the rest of the cast members out of the X-Men. What's your favourite thing about the Comic-Cons?
Meeting the people, just hearing people's stories about how the X-Men, it affected their lives. Many of the fans who started watching it in the 90s said that it gave them hope that they weren't the only ones who felt like they were different, and they would race home from school to watch the show. And a lot of them said it made them feel like it was okay to be who they were, and that, like, for instance, my character can't touch anybody skin to skin, and she tries to get rid of her superpower at one point, and then she realizes you can't change who you are, and you need to be proud of who you are. And so a lot of people in the LGBTQ2S+ community, for instance, have told me that really meant a lot to them when they heard that. It really touched them. So, hearing these stories, we all love that, and we love to get up close and personal with our fans. So I look forward to it again, especially after COVID.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to actually catching back up with X-Men, because I know that it's actually coming back, isn't it? When's it due to come back again? Unfortunately, I forgot to write it down.
2020. 2023. So this year, 2022, we're recording the sessions, and then it will be coming out on Disney Plus in 2023, which is really exciting.
Genuinely excited about it coming back. I remember here in the UK it was on well, we had Sky in the house and it was on Fox Kids, and remember just before starting school, it was always on 8 o'clock. It was either 8 o'clock in the morning or it was something like 7:30. I can't remember. I used to sit down, have my breakfast with it, and literally just constantly watch it. And some of the animation on it and the like some of the work involved must have been it must have been like a lot of work, not just for the animators but for yourselves as well. See in terms of like the voice actor mark, there's a lot of screaming and there's a lot of noise making, so to speak. Did you ever find that quite awkward when you were trying to do the like in the booth, basically?
To be honest, no. I really enjoyed it because I love screaming. I love getting really emotional and getting all my energy and angst out. And so it was actually a very therapeutic. And oftentimes what we do, to be honest, is they'll do a fight walla. What they'll do is they'll get us to do all kinds of fighting sounds. They'll tell us, imagine this or imagine that, and we'll just do a whole bunch of fighting sounds in one fell swoop. And then when we actually do the episodes and we come to it, then we will do them again. But they also have this whole library of our fight sounds that they can pull from when they need to or want to, if we've done something that they like better.
That actually sounds pretty cool, like just being able to press a button and all you hear is like, I don't know, Wolverine going, "Argh!"
Yes, basically, yeah, exactly. You know, but
that's brilliant.
You know, one of the most interesting times that I did that was when Rogue was fighting some enemies, and Storm was there too, and we were flying and we were fighting, but you're doing this all in your imagination. So they're saying, okay, Lenore, now you're flying through the air, but then you get hit by this big force and you fall back, but then you go forward and then you get caught up in this tornado that Storm has created, and you're going around and around and around and down in this tornado, and then you hit the ground and then you bounce back up. So I mean, you have to imagine all this in your head, right? You're not seeing it, you have to just imagine it. And so it's like
imagine that it is actually happening to yourself and actually carry out even sometimes the actions, but obviously the voice is portraying the actual animation.
Right. And meanwhile, your mouth has to stay by the microphone, so you can't be acting it out too much.
Yeah.
You have to stay in place. But, it's like, how does it sound? How does your voice sound this differently when you're going around and around and down in a tornado versus, you're just flying through the air and punching somebody?
Well, we've got a question from the guys. So Angry Scotsman Gaming is just asking, in terms of the new X-Men coming out, is it going to be based on the Generation 1 cartoon that you were within, and will it still look the same as the Generation 1 or the 90s animated series?
Yes, I believe so. We definitely we're the same characters, and we're basically taking off from after how it ends the last time, not like right away, but shortly afterwards. So yeah, you're going to see us in action, basically moving on, and what happens to us in the future after what you've already seen. And by the way, Is it Angry Scotsman? Is that what his name is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you come to a Comic-Con to meet me in Europe, I will bring a flag, a Nova Scotia flag for you.
Well, he's actually a good friend of mine. We actually know each other really well for a number of years, so I'm sure I'll probably take him down to Telford if things go ahead for you. It'd be good to meet you in person as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other questions that Angry Scotsman had was basically what has been the most challenging or your favourite role to play so far, and actually I don't mean that just in the voice acting side of things, but across the whole spectrum.
Well, I'd say I've done a lot of feature films and television, like live action, and also theater. And so a number of times I have played Marilyn Monroe. And in fact, she was my first big starring role that I ever got when I was 19 years old. And an author, composer of a rock opera on the life of Marilyn Monroe saw me perform in a concert here in Prince Edward Island, which is near Nova Scotia. And he had been searching for a whole year for the right actress to play Marilyn Monroe in this rock opera on her life called Hey Marilyn. And when I did this number, he turned to his wife and they both said, "That's Marilyn." And they flew me out to Edmonton, which is the other side of the country. And I auditioned for British director Peter Coe, who had done Oliver, the original Oliver on the West End in London and also in New York. And he hired me on the spot to play Marilyn Monroe. So at 19, to play a role like that in a big rock opera was a major challenge. But I immediately related to Marilyn, to the character, to who she was and her fears and her pain and her loneliness. And interestingly, I find Rogue is a lot like that too. So there are similarities, and I could relate. So that was the biggest challenge I'd ever had. And to be honest, I don't talk about this much, but I'm now that I'm coming back in this world of animation and acting, I do want to say that at the time, being a young 19-year-old from Nova Scotia, Australia originally, the director, who was older, in his 60s, I'd say, he actually came on to me at one point before rehearsals even started, and I had to hold him at bay, and he was very inappropriate, trying to just come on to me in many different ways. And it was kind of like before the Me Too movement, obviously, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to. But I basically told him, "Look, this is just business. I'm here to do a job, and I'm sorry, but I'm not interested." And he punished me for that throughout the whole rehearsal. He didn't give me any direction, didn't tell me where to go. Basically, kind of made fun of me in front of everybody else. Every time I went to the bathroom, he'd ask me, "What was I doing there? Why did I take so long?" Very, very inappropriate. But yeah, I came through that. And I basically directed myself in that show. And when opening night came and there were 2,000 people in the audience, and I came out on stage at the end of the show and they all rose to their feet and gave me a standing ovation, after that, I can do anything. Really.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a really important thing to bring up. And listen, thanks for bringing it up, by the way. And like, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's absolutely horrible what happened. And I know it's many years ago. And like, as I said, I'm sorry to hear that's happened to you.
Thank you.
But but as you rightly said, if you can overcome that, you've overcome a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms
if it doesn't
of
kill you, it's stronger. So
Exactly. Just on the back of our stream tonight as well, what I'll do is I'll also put any possible helpline as well if you've ever been affected by any of this, which we're talking about tonight as well. So,
Thank you.
The other thing as well was in terms of all the various different types of roles that you've done. So again, I know that the main thing, or the thing that most people will know you by, is by Rogue in the X-Men 90s program. But I know that you've also done some video game work as well. So has there been any? Have you ever had any differences, or has there been any differences between doing voiceovers for games? So I think the latest one you did was the Fairly Odd Parents video game. Was there any differences between that and doing animation work?
To be honest, no, they're pretty much the same. With games, it's basically pretty well all fighting. You know, so when you've had that opportunity to do all that fight walla, as we call it, in the animation series, it kind of is pretty easy to then do the games, because it's all fighting and one or two lines. But it was fun. I had that one, and also the Capcom Marvel versus something Capcom, and you know, I did those as well, and they were lots of fun. I'm always up for more games. Send them my way.
But I think there was two. There was the Marvel vs. Capcom in 1998 and the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in 2000. I think it was called something like I can't even mind the actual name of it, but it was the fighting game, as you were saying.
Yeah.
In terms of Rogue, so we've got another question from Angry Scotsman. Do you think that Rogue would have preferred Wolverine over Gambit, or and the tie up to that is what character relationships would you have loved to see more explored in, or maybe even to see explored further in the Return of X-Men?
Well, you know, it's funny, a lot of people ask that. There's a number of fans, mainly men, who really would love to see Rogue hook up with Wolverine. But to be honest, I think they seem to me to be more like a brother and sister. And, you know, Wolverine is a loner, and so is Rogue. They're both loners in some ways, which is why I think they can relate to each other. And Gambit, you know, Gambit has a particular je ne sais quoi. You know, he has a a very you know, let the good times roll. You know, kind of attitude, and I think Rogue really likes that. But obviously, he also frustrates her because she can't actually let down her guard and be herself completely, because she's afraid, rightly so, that if she does, she will kill him. And I mean, that's a very difficult power to have for a woman who is very sexual and very sexy and very sensuous and passionate. So she has to constantly keep her guard up, and that is, you know, in Greek tragedy they would call it the fatal flaw. You know, every Greek tragic hero has a fatal flaw, and that's hers, that her Achilles heel, as they say. So there's a constant tension with Gambit because she can't let herself go all the way, but I think she'd like to.
I totally get what you mean. Like that was pretty much like quite evident in the 90s side of things. But you're right. Yeah. I'm just ASG, as he's also known as, Angry Scotsman Gaming, just to shorten it down. He was just saying that is it just because Gambit is French Canadian?
Well, he's not French Canadian. He is from Louisiana. He's from Louisiana. Now, the Cajuns, as they call them in Louisiana, did originally come from Nova Scotia. They were called Acadians here, Acadian, but they were expelled from Nova Scotia by the British in something like, oh my gosh, 1749 or something like that. The British came in and they just rounded all the men up. They put them in like churches, and then they put them on ships and dispersed them. And the women, they sent them somewhere else. It was pretty awful. It was disgusting, really. So a number of them were sent down to Louisiana, and that's where Creole comes from, with a mixture of the African and also the French and the music. So Gambit comes from there, and actually Wolverine is Canadian. He's the Canuck in the bunch.
Actually, yeah, I was just thinking that. Actually, isn't Wolverine Canadian?
Yeah, he's Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's got a slight obsession with Wolverine, to be honest. But there we are. Obviously, you know, it's been many years since you've done the role of Rogue, and I know that that's coming back to a subject or coming back to a particular role can be slightly difficult. But how easy was it for you to fit back into that role and reprising the voice of Rogue? Because it's now been, what, 30. Nearly 30 years. There we are.
It's been 30 years. Yeah. Let's
but
just
obviously
say
throughout that time you've obviously done various different different works as the voice of Rogue. So how easy was it coming back to the role?
It was easy. You know, my daddy liked to kill himself when he found out I was a mutant. Get out of my mind. I remember when I was 13, I had me a boyfriend. Had me a boyfriend till I kissed him. Poor boy went into a coma for 3 days. Got so if I touched anybody, it just drove the life right out of him. Oh, I don't know, Beast. You know everything. What makes us like the way we are anyway? It's right there, you know.
That has put a smile. That has put the biggest smile on my face. Thank you so much for doing that for me.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah, she's inside me. I can't get rid of her. And I wouldn't want to. I love both.
In terms of voicing Rogue, and I know there was other characters that you'd played. So I remember between 2006 and 2008 that you'd played Shikara Shisho in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So in terms of voicing and playing characters, what goes into your thought process, or what's your thought process in developing the voices for these characters?
Well, I know you're going to just use my tricks, aren't you? You're looking for tricks to do for your voiceovers.
That's the one.
Listen, the interesting thing is that when I did the X-Men for those 5 years, 92 till 96, I guess it was, or 91 till 96, I had not really done voiceovers before. I'd done 1 or 2 shows, but I was mainly acting on camera and in theater. And so I didn't have a large stretch of voices that I did, like some voiceover actors. But so when I went to Los Angeles at the end of that series, I ended up taking some classes from some of the top-notch teachers, directors there. And I learned to grow my repertoire. And they taught me that, you know, your initial voice, your sound, find your initial sound. That's your signature sound. And then think of it like the trunk of a tree. And then you have other branches, which can be the other characters where you can stretch your voice to like be either, you know, to think like, hi, little funny little characters, you know, that are up here or down here, you know, or what, and what kind of accents do they have? And do they have a French accent? Do they have a British accent? Are they Irish? You know, all New York, whatever. And so it was fun because as an actor, I got to really play and try out different things and take these courses for about 6 months. And it really allowed me to improve the types of auditions I could do. I could play like little boys. I didn't know that before. I could play you know, I just put my hat on backwards and you know, I can imagine what it's like to be a little boy dragon in a wheelchair, you know, because it doesn't matter if I don't have legs, because I can do magic tricks. Want to see? Like that was so like that was
amazing, by the way.
Right, like that was a character from Dragon Tales. It's called Dragon Tales, and I played a little red dragon named Lorca in a wheelchair. And so I learned how to do that kind of thing in Los Angeles. And so when it came to Chikara, I was actually, by that time I was living in New York. And I had never done a Japanese accent before. So I just rented a bunch of movies. I think I even rented The Last Samurai and just listened to all of them and their accents, some of them good and some of them not so good, and picked out my favorite ones. And then I went in the next day and I did the audition and I got it. So you have to have a good set of ears, I think. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, because I come from the theater and I come from a background where I was a serious actor, you wouldn't want to try and do an accent that you're not going to make authentic, personally. And also, obviously, these days, you know, should somebody who is a white Caucasian be playing a Japanese person? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't done very many of those. I think, in fact, that was the only one. But if I'm going to do an accent, I really want to make sure that it's good, or I don't want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't
And
get me
I'll
wrong.
take time.
I personally disagree. I personally disagree with the whole you have to be of the thing. That's just my opinion. But that's and the reason for it is because there's great talent out there, like yourself, in fact. You know, who may have all these extra voices and extra, maybe it will bring something to the table. But again, completely appreciate where you're coming from. Absolutely, is that it does become a bit more difficult nowadays, where people want to have somebody from that background playing or voicing that character. If we even have a look at, if we use the biggest example, which was Apu in The Simpsons, where unfortunately he's been cancelled. Well, the character was written off because obviously it was played by Hank Azaria, who done pretty much all the voices. But at the time when it was brought out, it was absolutely fine. Nobody took notice or nobody took issue with it. And do you think nowadays that there's a lot more sensitivity around these things rather than
Let's put it this way. See, I don't look at it so much as a sensitivity. I look at it that there are a number of fabulous actors who have been underused and underutilized for years. So there are so many wonderful actors of various different ethnicities that let's give them the jobs, because there's been so many white people doing everything, playing everything under the sun for so many years. So like let's give other people the opportunity. I'm excited about that. You know, like I love to know that other people are getting the work too, and not just white people.
Oh, 100%. No, I absolutely agree. I mean, in terms of not just in terms of race, but also of course of gender as well. I mean, we've got some fantastic directors that are coming to the fore because if the director of Wonder Woman, unfortunately her name escapes me, but fantastic director.
Yeah, yeah, and really, to be honest, I mean, when you look at the history of the business, it's been mainly men directing and producing and writing too. So, yeah, we need to branch out and get as many people to the table as possible and hear as many different voices and their take on the world and what's going on around them. Like for instance, in the X-Men, I think we were really blessed that we have Larry Houston, who was our director, and he was the first Black storyboard artist editor in California, in Los Angeles, and he was wonderfully talented and working on the X-Men. Have you ever met him or talked to him on your show?
Unfortunately, not. No, I'd love to actually.
Yeah, you
But
should definitely have him on. He knows so much about the history of making the series and just the challenges that went into it. You know, trying to like he shipped around the idea of doing an animated series based on these superheroes, and they all basically said, who wants to watch a TV series on superheroes?
yeah.
Well, 30 years later, I think that we all know how many people like to watch shows about superheroes. But at the
Exactly.
time,
Yeah. It's been crazy how popular it's like superhero movies. Well, the superhero genre has become.
Yeah.
Not just in animation, movies, comics are getting a comeback as well. So absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
You obviously with the, regards to the X-Men side of things, you had a whole range of different characters and different things. Do you think that in terms of the writing side of things of that played a huge part in, or did it play a part in fact in terms of sort of bringing these characters and their individuality to life?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the writers, under the guidance too of Larry Houston, were extremely sensitive about all kinds of different issues that to be honest, Stan Lee opened the discussion about race, about gender, about also the whole idea about this president and some of the forces in United States who were anti-mutant and down with mutants and lock them up and put them in cages, and I mean it was almost
Yeah, there
prescient.
was quite a lot of
Right?
very strong subjects actually. I remember the episodes actually, like the ones that you're specifically talking about with the president, the down with the mutant side of things, and it was kind of like a clash, a
Right,
three-way
like
clash,
a Friends
in
of
fact.
Humanity or something like that. The Friends of Humanity, and they really like the name is the opposite of what they really are. They're hateful. They're hateful people. And it's sad, I think, that we've come 30 years and now we're seeing that same thing regurgitate and happen again. Um, when you would have hoped that those themes would have been dealt with back in the past, but they are coming back again to the forefront. And that's why actually I tweeted out at one point when I knew we were coming back that I think the world needs a little X-Men right now. We need the X-Men to come and give people hope again and give kids hope that there are people out there who believe we're all equal and that we all deserve kindness and compassion and that we all belong to the same community, and that we'll stand up for everybody who feels that they're different, who are made to feel that they don't belong. So
That's
yeah.
a pretty awesome message, that actually. that the world needs it. The world needs the X-Men. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. Really,
Um,
it's too bad we can't go out there flying out in person, but I think we can communicate these important philosophies and messages with our work in the series, and hopefully a lot of children will get to see it, and their parents, and come away feeling hopeful.
Well, obviously we were talking about something to do with the part of the show that was dealing with a lot of the politics and things like that. So I obviously with regards to politics, is that I know that you were part of the Liberal Party for the riding of Cumberland Colchester, and
Federally, yes.
and also that you stood as an independent and was also part of the Nova Scotia New Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What in terms of politics, what's the biggest thing that you think that government bodies get wrong?
Well, first of all, let's make it clear to the viewers what the Liberal Party is in Canada versus what the Liberal Party is in, say, for instance, Australia. I'm not sure if it's the same in Scotland or not. But in Australia, the Liberal Party is the Conservative Party, and the Labour Party is the left of centre. And in Canada, it's the Liberal Party that is a little left of centre. The Conservatives are to the right. And then there's another further to the left party called the New Democrats. And so I was part of the New Democrats in Nova Scotia for 10 years. I was elected 3 times. And then I was asked to run federally. And the federal Liberals, I felt were they cared about the environment, they cared about social justice, they cared about all the same things really that the New Democrats cared about. And so I ran, I was asked to run to represent the Prime Minister Trudeau here in Nova Scotia, in the north of Nova Scotia, Cumberland, Colchester. So I agreed to do that, and I won. So I went up to Ottawa and sat with him and all the other MPs. Now, I've been part of a government in Nova Scotia that was New Democratic. I've been an opposition member as well for 6 years, and then I've been a backbencher in a minority government for the Liberals. I think part of what the problem is getting out the good news about what governments do instead of just the bad news. I think one of the problems with our parliamentary system, in a way, is that the different parties chip away at each other, and they never seem to really give each other credit when there's something good that they've done. So it's always an attack, criticism, smear campaigns, things like this. Personally, I think people are tired of that, and sadly, it works. And so people just tend to take the worst and they regurgitate it, and then you've got social media and they're regurgitating it, whether it's true or not. So what governments do is oftentimes lost on the public because it gets mixed up with all the fake news that is now out, as Donald Trump sadly coined. So, I think that we need to give governments a break sometimes and really pay attention to what it is they're doing, instead of just reading the headline and not bothering to actually find out what the bills are and what it stands for. And that is on the media too. Like, the media needs to be in the middle and not giving one or the other, and having propaganda campaigns where you really don't, the media just propagates whatever it is that they want to propagate. So, so that's where I come from on that particular question.
That's a good point that you raised, because it is pretty much, even the media can be partisan.
Yeah.
That's and impartiality is quite rare nowadays. And exactly. It seems to be polarized as well.
Totally.
A question's just come in from ASG. Do you think that Canada should leave the Commonwealth, or do you think it's more beneficial for Canada to stay within it?
Personally, I love being part of the Commonwealth. Born in Australia, moved to Canada. I'm proud of being part of the Commonwealth. Whether or not we stay having the Queen as our sovereign, as our head of state, who knows? Who knows what the future holds there? But I did get a chance to meet her when she came to Nova Scotia about 12 years ago, 11 years ago, and we had a great talk. She had a great sense of humor, and when she found out I was an actor, she said, "Oh, well, this is a very different role for you then, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, in some ways, Your Majesty, it's kind of the same." And she had a good laugh, and she was. I really actually had some great respect for her after meeting her in person. Whereas, having been born in Australia and coming from convict heritage, I was a bit more like, oh well, those bloody palms, was the attitude back then. But no, I'm quite happy to be part of the Commonwealth.
And Lightning, again, thank you for supporting the stream, by the way. Lightning has asked, how did you go from TV and film to politics?
Well, I was in TV and film and animation for 33 years, and I ended up writing a play, which I did in New York for about a year, and it was a one-woman show about Marilyn Monroe, about the end of her life when she was, really having trouble with alcohol and drugs and suicidal. And I did that performance, as I said, for about a year, and I decided at the end of that it was time to go home to Nova Scotia. I wanted to be closer to my family, to my parents who were getting older, my sister who had 3 little kids, and I wanted to be like a hands-on auntie.
Yeah.
So I came home and just started doing work in the community here in Truro, working at like saving old beautiful heritage buildings and things from demolition. And the New Democrats at the time saw me in action and came up to me and said, have you ever thought about running for politics? And interestingly, years ago, I had thought about it, but I knew that I would need to have more. I'd need to be older and have a lot more experience and travel the world, which I've done, and have a better idea about what kind of politics works best and what would be more helpful for people. So by that time, I realized that perhaps I would be interested. And I spoke to a woman who was the first female leader of any recognized party in Canada, and her name was Alexa McDonough. Good Scottish name, I guess, there. But Alexa McDonough was a good friend of mine, and she said, "Lenore, do it. We need you." So I ran and won. And there you go. There you have it. And then I ran 3 more times, as I said. And so I won 4 elections in a row, 12 years, both provincially and federally. And then I ran in the last election, which was just last September, lost that one. But 2 days later, I got a message from a film producer saying, "Hey, Lenore, we're so sorry to lose you as a politician for now. But listen, does this mean that you could be in my movie?" And so I sent me the script, and I read it, and it's a beautiful script. And so I start shooting that on Wednesday. I start next week. And it's called The Madones, and it will be shot here in Nova Scotia. And then a little shortly after that, the Xmen came calling and said, "Hey, we want you to play Rogue again after 30 years." So I was like, man, the universe is telling me to go in this different direction. So I'm just listening to the universe, and off I go. And here we are.
I mean, honestly, that sounds amazing. Like, in terms of the movie, can you tell us any more about that the movie that you've that's starting shooting?
Well, I can't talk about it too much right now because the producers want to announce it themselves and tell who the cast is and things like that. But I can tell you that it's a beautiful family drama and comedy and very poignant. It's going to be beautifully shot. The cast is amazing. It already has distribution and broadcast rights. It will be going to film festivals in 2023. So, it will be coming out in 2023, and Xmen will be coming out in 2023. So I think I'll be traveling a lot that year.
I was going to say, it seems like it's all happening for you, like.
Yeah. But I do want to say, do check out a film that I've already did it's streaming now. I think it's on Amazon Prime, called Stage Mother, with Jackie Weaver, who is a wonderful Australian actress, Lucy Liu, Adrienne Grenier, who is in on Entourage, and it's about two Texan women. I played Jackie's younger sister from a little town in Texas, and they find out that the older sister, Jackie, her son has passed, and she has inherited a gay bar in San Francisco. So then it becomes the world of drag queens, and it's just so much fun. And it's also poignant and beautiful. You'll cry, you'll laugh, but it's called Stage Mother. Check it out.
Stage Mother. But definitely will, in fact.
Yeah.
There is a couple more questions. So, going back to the politics side of things, do you think that it's more difficult as a woman to be in politics, and what should the whole community or the whole what should we do basically to encourage more women to enter politics?
Well, I will encourage women to enter politics. We need you. We need women. We need your voices at the table. Women need to be heard. They've been silenced for too long. And even when you do run for politics, it's difficult because there's a lot of misogyny out there, with a lot of people who still just seem to think that we don't have anything to offer and that our voices aren't important and that men should be running things. And I love men, but I also know that I'm as intelligent and as compassionate, sometimes more, and that we need compassion, kindness, caring in our leaders, to not just think about the things that have already been done over and over and over again, but to think about new ways of doing things. Look at, for instance, the Prime Minister in New Zealand. What an amazing woman she is. And I would love to see someday to have Canada have a female Prime Minister. And if that opportunity comes to be able to help support somebody who wanted to run for a female Prime Minister, I would be there. President in America too. That would be really good. A female president.
Definitely. I mean, the UK's already had two prime ministers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, both from the Conservative Party, but that's personal.
Okay.
That's personal view.
Yes.
But still,
I'm with you on there.
But still, there's a lot of courage in there. Absolutely, for women to stand up in politics.
Yeah, it's not easy, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, the last couple of years, being a federal politician versus the provincial politician, I had death threats. I had harassment, constant harassment, particularly when my government announced that we were going to be banning semi-automatic weapons. There were 1,500 semi-automatic weapons that we were banning. Including rocket launchers. I mean, grenade launch. Who needs those? So I came out supporting that, and I got attacked viciously for months on end. But you know what? I said what I believed, and I still believe it, and I would do the same thing again. So,
Oh,
yeah, it
absolutely
takes
agree.
courage.
Hold firm to what, even if there's differences in what people think, hold on to what you believe in. But absolutely, I
Yes.
don't think that's horrible to even
Yeah.
think of
And
getting
especially
any sort
too,
of threats or anything like that.
especially too, to be honest, because here in my riding, as we call it, my constituency, we had just had the largest mass shooting in Canada just occur, and with 22 innocent people died, and one of them was pregnant. And a few weeks after that was when my government announced that we were banning all these semi-automatic weapons. And in the States, you see so many of these terrible shootings, and they have so many guns. It's easy. You just have to go to a store and buy one. You can get bullets wherever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, I mean there should be at least proper licensing laws in place,
Yeah.
but America is America, so
Yeah, and we're on the other side of the border, luckily.
thank goodness.
Yeah.
One of the questions that have come in again in the ASG, coming in with so many questions today. Thank you so much, by the way. Will you have any involvement in the Jordan Voight-Roberts movie of the Mobile Suit Gundam?
Oh, I
So
haven't
I believe
heard
that was
about it yet. Yeah, because I played role in that, I believe. But no, I haven't heard anything about it yet. Nobody's reached out. Tell them to.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully they see this.
Yes.
Yeah, no, so I'm just trying to see if there's any other mentions. In fact, yeah, so there's been a couple of comments just mentioned. So ASG just mentioning that there should be that no civilians should actually have guns. Completely, personally agree. Unless it's like he mentioned, unless it's things for like farming or actual requirements of gun ownership.
Or hunting, whatever, but yeah.
But
Nobody needs semi-automatic weapons.
Oh no, I don't understand the point of it at all. But Lenore, thank you again for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your voice of Rogue with us as well.
Oh well, you look about as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Do you know what's quite funny? Is I actually feel that way right now. But for the guys on the chat, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate it. And you can join us again. Well, I'll find out when I'm going to be streaming a special like this again on the old bit Saltire Streams. I'm going to be planning on trying to make this a more often thing. And a huge thanks, huge thanks to you, Lenore, for joining me. And this is the very first time, by the way, that we've actually done the Saltire Streams. So thank you again. Really do appreciate you joining me tonight.
No problem, and it's great to be here. And hopefully, I'll get over to Europe at some point soon, and you'll have to all come meet me.
Absolutely. So. Remember, guys, Telford, is it Telford Comic Con next? Well, when's that coming up?
April. It's coming up in April, but we're not booked yet. So tell them get the X-Men in.
Get the X-Men in. Get the X-Men involved.
Come on.
Absolutely. And bear with me. So it'll be greenlit. Its purpose, not for sport. Ah, right. Okay. So the guys are just chatting that away in the chat, just mentioning about the gun ownership and things like that. But guys, listen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really do appreciate all the support and the questions brought forth. If you want to catch us again, remember to follow on the twitch.tv/Film Scotland. Remember, I'm back tomorrow with the retro revivals. So join me again from 9 o'clock tomorrow night, GMT, for retro revivals, and we'll be back again at some point with the Saltire Streams. So again, thank you so much for the support, guys, and take it easy. Bye for now.